A lot of you have chosen an education with some deliberation. Right? So you have, it's not just something that you happen to be doing right now, it's something you've decided to do. And I'm assuming you have good reasons to get an education. You have good reasons to get a degree at the Copenhagen Business School, right? Probably, and there's no shame in this, it has something to do with money and power, right? You would like to, you've understood this, getting a university degree will make you earn more money. Right? It will make you better earners. And you've also understood that having a university degree will give you more credibility, more influence, will just simply get you in through doors that otherwise you would not get through. All of that makes perfect sense, and you can decide yourself what you mean by these things. For some people, wealth is knowing that you have enough, right? For some people, power is the ability to make the world a better place. Right? So I'm not saying you're greedy, I'm not saying you're lustful for power, I'm just saying that there are some pretty practical, and you're pretty practical people, there's some pretty practical reasons to be at university, right? That's all I'm saying. The problem, of course, is that we don't hand out money and power at university, right? We hand out knowledge, right? And like I said, I'm going to tell you 15 things about what knowledge is, and about 9 of them relate directly to writing. The other 6 don't relate directly to writing, but they're very, very important for your style. And I hope I can convince you of this, right? That there's a rich connection between the non-literary component of writing and the literary component. And that's because knowledge isn't just a kind of cognitive state that you put yourself in. Knowledge is a competence. If you are knowledgeable about something, be that organization or management or finance or marketing or whatever it is you're studying, right? Being knowledgeable means you are able to do something that ignorant people are not able to do. It has a philosophical component, and so we're going to work with that. We're going to talk about that for about 10 minutes maybe. It also has a rhetorical component, a communicative component, something having to do with speech. Right? And it has, of course, a literary component that I'm going to talk a lot about. So this thing that you're acquiring, knowledge, right? You're not being given a bunch of money, you're not being given a bunch of power, you're being given some knowledge. And so this thing called knowledge has this literary component. And what I want you to do is think about these as 3 overarching abilities. The first is the ability to make up your mind. So if you're knowledgeable about something, and it could be management, finance, organization, marketing, right? Politics, history, philosophy, there's lots of different things that we can study here at CBS. If you're knowledgeable about these things, if we throw you into a situation that is where that knowledge is relevant, or if we give you some case material where that knowledge is relevant, right? Or if we give you a text written by a scientist wherein that knowledge is relevant, you are in a position to make up your mind about what's going on, right? You're able to decide what this means. So that's the first thing you want to be able to do, right? Before you say you're knowledgeable about something, you want to say, I have the ability to make up my mind. The second thing you want to be able to do is speak about it. You want to be able to speak your mind, and you want to be able to listen to other people speak their minds about the subject. You want to be able to understand what other people are saying when they're talking within your discipline, within the field of study that you're involved in, right? So you can already see these are 2 pretty solid competencies, right? Given a situation of relevance to what you know, you're going to be able to make up your mind about what's going on. You'll be able to speak intelligently about it, and you'll be able to understand what other intelligent people are saying when they speak about it, right? And then, of course, not just for the purposes of examination, but just in general, you'll want to be able to write it down, right? So it's in these kinds of categories and this kind of competence that we're going to be talking. Now, what will a philosopher say making up your mind really consists in? And I will keep this very short, right? It means the ability to form a belief, right? So what you're going to be doing, you're going to make up your mind, you'll be deciding what to believe, right? And what that really means is you'll be having an opinion about what is going on in the world. What is the case in the world? What's the real thing that is happening, right? Now, I hope you've all had this experience of making up your minds. And I hope you've all had the very related experience of discovering a few weeks later that you were wrong, right? So you spend some time, you make an effort, you make up your mind, and then a few weeks later you realize, I was completely wrong about that. Right? That's an important experience, and it's an experience I wish upon you many times in the coming years. Right? I really think it will really help you. It will teach you a lot of things. But it also teaches you one very important thing in general, which is the difference between a true and a false belief. And obviously what you want to do, if you want to be knowledgeable, is you want to be able to make up your mind in such a way that you're forming beliefs that are largely true, right? That are more often than not true, and that are more true than false, because all beliefs are a little bit imprecise, I suppose, right? Does that make sense? So you want to maximize your capacity for forming true beliefs. You want to optimize on that. This is what being knowledgeable is all about. If you have a set of academic skills, you are able to do this well. Now, there's a special case of belief that I want to look at because this isn't going to be enough. In the long run, this is not going to be enough that you just acquire a bunch of true beliefs. The competence has a lot of extra things going along with it. I don't know, maybe in the break, you'll probably have some conversations about what I've tried to tell you, what I've tried to persuade you of, what I've tried to tell you is true, right? Some of you will say, well, that was brilliant. It was intelligent, coherent. He seems to know what he's talking about. I'm going to do these exercises that he suggested, and that by that means I will expect to become a better writer, right? And others of you will say, no, I think that was nonsense. It didn't persuade me at all. I found it unconvincing and wrong, right? So there'll be a distribution of opinions, right? Now, suppose one of you said, as you're pushing each other on why is it you thought this was bad, or I suppose even why is it you thought it was good, and then you pointed out that I had a beard. Suppose you didn't you notice he had a beard? Right? And some of you know that bearded men cannot be trusted, right? Because we must be hiding something, right? That is a particular way of forming beliefs. It's one that we know well, right? It's a familiar way of forming beliefs. And what's it called? What happens in that situation? What is it that the person who says, well, I'm not going to trust him because he has a beard, what has that person exposed? Yeah? It's a prejudice, exactly, right? It's a famously bad way of forming beliefs, right? One of the things it does, not only does it put you in a bad situation of having a kind of dodgy belief formation process, if you say that that's the base on which you're forming beliefs, your credibility will be drawn into question, right? So it's not a good argument. And this is why philosophers will add something to this. They'll point out, right, that not only do you have to believe something to know it, not only does that belief have to be true, but you have to know why it is true. You have to have a good reason to believe it. You have to have a justification to believe it is true. So the classic definition of knowledge is actually, knowledge is justified true belief. It's a couple of thousand years old, and philosophers always kind of started there. They've then asked if it's really the case that that's all we need to know about knowledge. But they usually start there with justified true belief.